You do recording, right?
Yes, sir. So hi, Dr. Thillai Rajan. Hope you are doing well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm
Yeah,
doing all right.
yeah. Thank you, and thank you for accepting our invitation to be a part of our Next Gen Entrepreneurs Beyond Dream series. And so today we are joined in by Dr. Thillai Rajan. He's a professor in Department of Management Studies, IIT Madras, and also is the founder and director of YNOS Venture Engine. So hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's YNOS, right? Yeah.
We pronounce it as YNOS.
YNOS, okay. YNOS is a startup founded in 2017, and they are incubated in IIT Madras. And YNOS is an intelligence and analytical platform with an innovative suite of products and programs. So their key focus is to address the challenges across the life cycle of early stage ventures. And the startup also provides customized insights, recommendations to the startup founders, venture investors, innovators, and also other stakeholders in the startup ecosystem. We are really happy to have you with us today, sir, and we'd like to hear more from you, right? So, from as an academia person, what was the point in which you thought of, doing this entrepreneur journey? And yeah, if you could share some glimpses of it, please.
I started, first of all, Mayuri, thank you so much. It's a great opportunity that to be a part of your series. And I'm very glad that you have, in your criterion, found it worthwhile to look at YNOS to be able to feature in your series. And yes, so let me start. My initial years of experience was at the other side of the entrepreneur, in the sense that I was looking at funding entrepreneurs. I spent some time in a venture capital fund where we are trying to look for investment opportunities in the startups. So that was a time when India was emerging as one of the important destinations for entrepreneurship. Right, and we are talking about just about the dot-com era, right? When everybody felt that they were confident of starting on their own. And since the time to what we have today, about 2 decades later, the entrepreneurial journey has really taken off. There are a lot of startups, a lot of founders are very successful, and they are motivating several people to actually go ahead and start on their own. But what I am also finding is that these entrepreneurs, most of them are what we call as first generation entrepreneurs, and they don't really have any business background. Traditionally, if you look at in the Indian context, when people went into business, they are mostly from business families. So they had the support of the families, not only in terms of know-how and so on, but they also had the financial support that was coming from the families. But people who are in the first generation, naturally, they need a lot more handholding. And more importantly, they also need funding.
Yes.
And because they are not from very wealthy families, and therefore they need to raise some external capital. So therefore, what you actually see is in today's most businesses, the businesses do not generate the cash flows in the initial years, right? I mean, you need money from external sources. And that means somebody will have to go ahead and raise that capital. And most founders, they have, I would call, from technical fields. Many of them do not really have the expertise to go ahead and raise capital. Okay. And they need some support, because fundraising is not something that you do on a daily basis, right? So therefore, you need expertise, and not many founders have the expertise. And so naturally, what happens is you try to find some external experts who will help you in the fundraising process. So they call us as investment bankers, right? And in the early 2000s, we actually had a very good investment banking sector, which was willing to help entrepreneurs raising very early stage funding, right? 50 lakh, 1 crore, 1.5 crores. So that amount, there were people available to be able to help the startups. But today, if you see, we don't really have investment banking support for entrepreneurs who are raising very small sums of capital, maybe 1 crore, 2 crores. You don't really find any support. I mean, many of these investment bankers, they have graduated to big ticket sizes, largely from an economics perspective. The cost benefit was not working well for small ticket sizes. The risk was very high. But ultimately, the entrepreneurs had serious issue, right? They had a very acute problem in terms of how do they get funding, because there was really nobody who can do a hand holding and so on. And then there were a lot of platforms that were available where entrepreneurs can apply for funding.
Yes.
So when you start doing that, when you start the application process, the success of chance of success is very low. I just give you an example. One of the largest Indian networks in angel networks in India receives close to about let's say 20,000 applications in a year, and they will probably invest maximum in 50 or 100 of them, right? I'm saying maximum.
Yes.
So that means that you can look at the probability of getting funding successfully is very low, right? When you start the application process, right? So we felt one way to entrepreneurs to become more successful in funding is carefully target who is going to be a most potential investor and approach them, right? In the sense that you headhunt your investor, right? And not look at the application process where there is a lot of randomness, right? You don't know who is the investor. You just apply because there is an application window that is open. That is not very successful. So that's what the genesis of YNOS was. So can we really help the entrepreneurs get access to top-notch information, which they have not been able to get otherwise, right? Because entrepreneurs are essentially constrained for resources in the initial stages. So can we provide this information to these entrepreneurs at a price point that is really affordable for them?
Okay.
So that means we will have to rely on technology. So that's where we said that can we build a SaaS-based kind of a product through which we will be able to help entrepreneurs get access to high-quality information, which which otherwise was not accessible, right? Investors were able to subscribe to platforms, but they were all very expensive. Which was beyond the reach of the entrepreneurs. So we wanted to come out with something that will put them on a level footing, at least as far as information access is concerned, a level footing with the investors and other key players in the sector. So this is, briefly the genesis of what the YNOS is all about. I can explain any of the other aspects in detail depending on what you want me to get into.
Yeah. So thank you, sir. So it's actually very interesting to know that, you found the gap where it exists in the ecosystem and then rightly place the product there. And we really hope that, it's very useful for the, aspiring like entrepreneurs who are searching for funding and more. And just to, like ideation itself, right? Like how, where you start, where it was like, where in which point you thought of, initiating it. And also, like, what were the initial challenges in which finding a team member or, for your startup itself with the, what were the initial challenges for you? And what, like, how were your team members the students, or, as you have an, ecosystem of in IIT itself, right? The incubation center and more. Was it quite easy for you in that sense, or was it also difficult for you to start this whole journey?
You will have to also consider, my background a bit, right? I mean, in the sense that I was very fortunate. I've spent some time in the venture capital industry. I had the good fortune to obviously continue a very good professional network in the industry. And then I was lucky enough to get into IIT Madras as a faculty. I possibly have studied in some of the best campuses in India. So all of this, created conditions which did not pose a lot of hurdles for me when I wanted to start on my own. So by the time when I was thinking of starting, I also had substantial experience, right, through my research work, through my understanding of the industry, and so on. So some of the constraints that many of the young entrepreneurs might face when they were beginning to start was not really the ones that that were faced by me, right? And then also look at, right, it's all came together. I mean, I was at IIT, and IIT's probably had some of the very talented people that the country has to offer. And some of the students who used to work with me, they were excited about the potential for this venture, and then they would say that they would like to kind of join. So when I started this venture, I probably had some of the best talent this country had, and they kind of joined. And then even today, we have a very strong group of alumni who are part of. So that is that's not really a big challenge, right? So where we are now standing, and how do we kind of get to that inflection point, which will help us to scale rapidly, is where I think our next set of challenges are. Right? And so this is the one where we need to really expand our team. We need to be more articulate on our value proposition. And in essence, how do we really take this take this initial concept to something that can be widely used by the entire entrepreneurial community, right? So we are at that stage, right? So we have challenges of a different kind as compared to starting up, and this is where I think we are going to be finding it very exciting in terms of how we are going to handle the challenges that come today.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. And yeah, we really can see the difference, right? Like as we always, interviewed many startups who are in the initial phases, and you offer a product to help them. So I can see that how different the experience also will be, and also to coming into your SaaS product itself, like how is the reach, sir, to them, to the startups? Like, are they willing to take in? And were there any such points in which, because you're targeting younger entrepreneurs, and also, who are not having a good cash flow, right, to support them. So how is your product placed in there? What was the, how you would you say the reach, or is it scalable in terms of it, or yeah, if you could just give some points in that.
So our vision is to see how we could really have entrepreneurs go beyond the tier 1 cities. And if you today look at entrepreneurship as we see today, right? I'm not talking about starting a business. And starting a business happens everywhere, right? So if you look at startup and entrepreneurship, so that today has a flavor that is, I would say, very different from just starting a business, right?
Yes.
So if you look at entrepreneurship and startups specifically, largely it has been restricted to the what we call as the 8 tier 1 cities. Right? 80% of the startups come from the tier 1 cities. So one of our vision is that can we really take this beyond these tier 1 cities? Right? So what is the problem that is being faced by tier 2 cities? Is that entrepreneurs in tier 2 cities, I mean, for lack of a better word, they might probably may not have the same level of exposure that entrepreneurs in tier 1 cities have. Because in tier 1 cities, you have there are entrepreneurship clubs, there are potentially a lot of mentors, and then they may be studying in institutions where they get a lot more opportunities to interact with the right set of people. Right? So that is really not possible in many cases for tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So how do we really bridge this big gulf that exists? Right? So that's one of the problems. So one way is to say that, okay, now we need to make all these tier 2, tier 3 entrepreneurs also get the same level of exposure, get the same level of access to data that what tier 1 entrepreneurs are getting. Right? So therefore, when we are looking at when we looked at developing YNOS, that was our objective, right? So can we really look at those segments which are in the margins, who are unable to unable to get funded, or unable to take their startup to the next level? So can we do that? So that means how do you really ensure that our products and services are able to reach out to them? So that means it is difficult for us to have a foot on the road, right? We need to be able to make this product reach them. So then it should be technology, right? So how do we really ensure that technology using technology can we make this achieve. So that means
Okay.
we are not talking about helping 10 entrepreneurs or 100 entrepreneurs, right? We are looking at helping 100,000 entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
500,000 entrepreneurs. So that is really possible only if you are able to use technology in today's
True.
context. So therefore, we said that let us look at a SaaS model where wherever people they are, right? They could be in Shigalong or they could be in
Yes.
Andamans. Right? So they should be in a position to find out who are the top investors who are investing in India and where are they investing, at what round size they are investing, what is the nature of the startup that they are looking at, what kind of promoters they are investing in. There are so many things that, that you need to understand. And this is something that we are able to give. Now, to come to your question, right, how is the market perceiving our product? I would say the response has been extremely good. We have been very conservative so far in terms of, because we know our target segment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And therefore, we are very focused on reaching and sending the message to our target segment. And so far, the response has been extremely good. So we are working with various institutions that are supporting entrepreneurs. Right?
Okay.
And so these institutions have found the product very useful. And so they are supporting our platform so that the startups that are supported by these institutions get access to it. Right? So
Yes. Yes.
some of the ways in which we are able to reach out to our customers.
Yes, yeah, that's actually, as you said, rightly placed, right? Because we have a lot of institutions who have an incubator, like unlike 10 years before, we have a lot of universities and institutions, even private institutions, coming up with an incubator, and they're supporting their students, even graduate students, to start a venture. So placing the product right there would be beneficial for all the whole ecosystem of young entrepreneurs in there. So that's really interesting. And also, so to just have a just to know in detail about your product, right? It's a SaaS platform, and it's for finding the funding opportunities. So, and also, like, do you also provide some support to the startups, like to just know like where they have to grow and more, or how is it like holistic? What's the holistic way of how you describe your product?
So we look at it in multiple ways. So one is we want to provide what is called as a do-it-yourself platform.
Okay.
So if you want to look at potential investors, that will be broadly classified into two categories, right? So let's say you have individual investors who will be called as angel investors. So if you want to look at individual investors, we have a product called Angels. So you go to Angels, specify the criterion that you're looking for. Let's say, for example, you say that, okay, now let me say I want to have investors who are from Chennai, right? So you can quickly look at Chennai. And then entrepreneurs say, okay, no, I want to look at among those investors from Chennai, I want to look at those who have been very active in the last 1 year. Right? Then you can again, from those you can further shortlist. Right? And then out of this further shortlist, I want to know how many of these investors are investing in startups less than a year old. Right? So depending on what is your criterion that you are looking at, you can zero down on that basket of investors. That might be most interesting for you.
Yes.
Similarly, you can do it for VC funds, right? So this is like a do-it-yourself approach, right? Entrepreneur gets it, it does it himself. But we are also seeing situations where significant entrepreneurs need handholding. Right? They need somebody who would like to give them some kind of support and take them through the entire process and suggest them how to go. Essentially some kind of consulting.
Yes.
So for that purpose, what we have is we also have our in-house consultants and experts who can work with the startup and then tell them, right, okay, this is the kind of investors that will be more suitable for you, right? So that is another service we provide for people who need kind of a handholding. But then let me emphasize you that we are not only about funding. Ultimately, funding is an important aspect, but that is not the only aspect for startups. And we also have today what is called as a very interesting platform for getting access to subject matter experts.
Okay.
So let's say many of the startups are looking or basically have at the crux a very innovative idea. right?
Yes.
And many of these innovative ideas have a strong connection with science and technology. Okay, so that means there may be a lot of science and engineering problems that needs to be solved
Yes.
while they are taking their startup to reality. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look at it, India as a country has very rich resources on science and technology. But then many of these top-notch experts are relying in some of these national institutes, and these institutes are very large. And
Yes.
entrepreneurs from smaller cities, they find it very difficult to access this expertise. They're overwhelmed
Yes.
simply, right? Let's say there is
Yes.
IIT Madras, and then let's say, for example, we have a small entrepreneur in some place like, let's say, for example, a village down south, when he will be overwhelmed to be able to access the right expert
True.
in a large institute. So what we have done is we have created a platform. It's called as Delphi, and the objective of Delphi is how we can really take this high quality subject matter experts that are available in various institutes, universities,
Okay.
sometimes private sector institutes, so that people from smaller cities are able to easily find out and reach out to them. Right? So they can
Okay.
ask questions. For example, somebody is working on, let's say, battery technology. So he could probably find out an expert who has a lot of research, experience in the battery
Yes.
technology. And then he can ask questions like, for example, what made the right electrolyte use, right? And what type of battery is appropriate for this kind of use? So what should be the capacity? Right?
Okay.
So all of
Okay.
these questions for which answers are not easily available in Google, right? I mean, you need to very high quality. So this
Yes.
platform is something that we have made it available.
Yeah, that's
And we
actually.
also have, yes, sorry,
Yes,
please
sir. Yeah,
continue.
yeah. Please continue. Yeah. I was like,
And we also have another solution called Verve, right? Verve
okay.
helps an entrepreneur to estimate the valuation of a startup. So when they go for funding, most of the time the investor asks them a question: what's the valuation that you're looking at?
Yes.
And for an entrepreneur who is going to raise funding for the first time, how do you determine the valuation? Right? The traditional
Okay.
methods of valuation does not work
Work
for
anymore.
startups, right? And not it works, but then doesn't work for startups.
Okay. Okay.
It's not appropriate. So
Okay.
we need to look at a very different methodology. So we are using work which will help entrepreneurs to estimate the valuation, so that when they go and meet an investor, they are more confident and they know that okay, what they are expecting is in alignment with what is correctly happening in the market. So things like that. So it's a platform that is that's actually beyond just funding, right? It looks to identify experts. It looks to identify other similar startups, that are working in the same industry. And I also should mention that we also have a platform for incubators. Right? So
Okay.
incubators is a very important milestone in the startup journey, right? So they spend 2 or 3 years in incubator. So what would be the incubator that would be right for a startup, right? So
Okay.
we
Okay.
actually have a very large database of startups, incubators, and then it's like it's like let's say I would say TripAdvisor or any of these startups, right? When somebody is going to visiting a place, they look for hotels, right? And then they look
Yes.
at various options and recommendations. So similarly, we have tried to develop something for incubators. So a
Okay.
startup can identify what should be the right incubator for them, and then make an appropriate decision on which incubator they would like to go and get support from. So it's a very holistic platform, the
Okay.
way we see it for the startup and the innovation ecosystem of the country.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for explaining, sir. And really, yeah, it is holistic, and also the mentorship support is it's a great proposition you have added there, right there, because it's difficult for a startup to, everywhere we hear that they do not have a right direction, like and would have got the mentorship post like 2 to 4 years, and that would have been useful for them in the initial stages. So and it's so great to see such experienced professors and resourceful people like you starting up to help young entrepreneurs. Really thank you for that, sir. Thank you for this whole idea of this YNOS and also your platform. And also like I would like you to share some rewarding experience you had in this entrepreneurship journey. What if you had some any interaction, and also like with your team or outside with any startup, like what was your rewarding experience in the startup? Mm-hmm.
So the best reward a startup can get is I mean, when somebody using the product that we have developed and then it's getting benefited, right? So that is the ultimate, reward that one is looking for. Rest of the other things are possibly, some small milestones in the journey. For example, some recognition here, some fulfillment experience within the organization. All of these are, and I would say, minor. I would say minor tokens of satisfaction along the way. But then the ultimate satisfaction comes when somebody is able to use a product, and then we are able to create an impact in the marketplace. So I think to that extent, we have been able to, I would say, begin a narrative that shows a power of an entrepreneur-centric platform. Right? I think has been the biggest rewarding experience so far. Right? So there are two sides to the table. And one should not always be looking at it from an investor-centric perspective, but then there is a place for an entrepreneur-centric perspective in terms of intermediation, in terms of providing information or whatever it may be. And so that to be able to bring out that narrative, to be able to convince people. So that has been one of the biggest satisfying moments, and that is in fact resulted in. We are now engaged with many organizations, some of the top institutes in the country, some of the government startup missions. So we are working with them. So they are subscribed to our platform. So those has been, we are now looking at some large institutions on a pan-India partnership. So these are some of the very satisfying moments because we are able to create an impact that we wish to create, and that I think is the most rewarding experience that any entrepreneur is looking for.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time today, sir, and also for sharing your experience and also about your startup. And as a conclusion, I'd like to take 2 takeaway points from you for aspiring entrepreneurs and youngsters. Yeah, if you could just point, give some point from your expertise and also experience, 2 or 3 takeaway points.
So the first takeaway point is entrepreneurship. Each and every venture is unique. So it's important for the entrepreneur to realize and probably look at following a path that is suited for his startup, not really look at what others are doing. That is point number 1. And then the point number 2, I would say is, so overnight success comes from several years of hard work. Right. So that means, people should actually be more patient. For many, an entrepreneurship is a journey of a lifetime. So that could be some who could actually create success in a short period of time, but the thumb rule is that it takes a long time. And in India, it takes even more longer time than you probably see in the West. So I think entrepreneurs should be prepared for patience. And the third thing, I think it's important that one is to be transparent, and one needs to develop an element of trust with all stakeholders. Right? Because everybody, believes in somebody who's being earnest and sincere. Right? Things might work out, things might not work out, but I think if you're earnest, if you're sincere, if you're trustworthy, I think that's very helpful, right? With the investors, with employees, with the suppliers, the customers, with everybody. I think one should do it with utmost sincerity. So this, I think, would be, I would say, 3 takeaways that I could think of for today. Tomorrow it could change, but I think this is what comes to me today at the top of my mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Thillai Rajan, for your time today, and also for your sharing your experience, and also for your golden takeaway points, which would be helpful for all young entrepreneurs. And thank you really. And we'd like to soon meet you in another discussion in near future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayuri, and wishing you all the best to you and to your team for the excellent venture. And I'd like to wish you good luck with your research and other work. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a great day, sir. Bye.